but also is so firmly based in what all of the literature by people who actually do healing, psychic healings, say about the experience. The movie is called Resurrection, and it stars Ellen Burstyn. It's a movie that seems to have been lost because the last time I was able to find it, it was on a video cassette that had to have been recorded. But it seems not to be available on DVD. That might have changed. I hope it has. It's certainly a film worth preserving. But in this film, Ellen Burstyn has an accident which brings forth her ability to heal other people, and she begins to do it. And she describes, and we see the process of her healing. And basically, as she explains, she takes the illness or the pain inside of her before letting it go. So there's an aspect of connection, of establishing the oneness, so that she can help to heal. And she is subsequently hounded by very religious types. She is steadfastly not a religious person. But she knows she has this ability to go out and heal, and she uses it because she wants to help. And Christians are mad at her because she won't acknowledge Christ as the source of her healing. So it's fascinating and a very different way of talking about this subject than films often do. So if you can find it, it's well worth, if you haven't seen it, and probably many of you have. There's also another really good example of what I'm talking about when I talk about spirituality film, is the Bill Murray movie, Groundhog Day, which everybody enjoys and loves, and it's come to be a term in and of itself. When somebody says they're having a Groundhog Day situation, basically it means they're experiencing the same thing over and over and over again, deja vu, continually, and that's what happens in Groundhog Day. Bill Murray is a not very nice weather guy who gets sent to Punxsutawney to cover the groundhog, and during this time, after Groundhog's Day, when the alarm goes off, the alarm is playing Sonny and Cher, I Got You, Babe, and he wakes up and he's in the same day. And this happens over and over again, and each time it happens, he does something a little different, thinking it might get him back into the timeline, and it doesn't. But over however many times he repeats that day, he learns to play piano, he learns to do all kinds of things, he becomes part of the town's, the townspeople. He connects to them, he understands what they do, he develops an affection for them, and he actually becomes more of a human being in the course of it. So, Groundhog's Day, that actually was when I was doing a workshop on spiritual films. That's the film that I opened with. Another film, a foreign film, much different feeling involved in it, but it's called Winter, Spring, Summer, Fall. It's a Korean film, and it centers on the life of this boy and his father. They live in a Buddhist sanctuary, where the father, who is a monk, is teaching his son some very important values that he wants to impart. And it's an idyllic little place. He's safe from the world, and then a girl shows up. And things start to change. And the boy, as he grows, becomes fonder of the girl, and then they leave together. And he goes out into the world, and it makes a mess out of him. And he comes back having committed some terrible things, and trying to find redemption. It's a wonderful film. Winter, spring, summer, fall. It does have subtitles, so if you're allergic to subtitles, you might not want to look into that one. But there are many, many examples that you can find of these films. My film, Spirituality in Film, A Shamanic Journey, will show you some. There are other books on the subject that may point you in a direction of some films that you might be interested in seeing that have a resonance to them. But for our Oscar nominations tonight, let's take a look at some of the films that I think have a flavor of that to them. These kinds of films, unfortunately, are few and far between. But one thing I will mention is that the current real interest in superhero films and the popularity of superhero films is definitely a spiritual phenomena, I believe. Superhero films are always films about the hero's journey. And as such, they always have some spiritual element to them. It's always about someone or some group of someone's discovering the amazing potential within themselves and becoming more of who they are than they ever imagined. And again, it is usually it is always the hero's journey, where the hero faces many challenges, and most of these challenges are their self-doubt. And if you are familiar with Joseph Campbell and his work, you know what I mean when I talk about the hero's journey. That was something that he wrote about in comparing mythologies across countries and belief systems. He found a common commonality in theme. In which the hero goes through specific steps in his or her journey of becoming. And you see that very clearly in Black Panther. And I don't want to give spoilers if you haven't seen it and you're going to go see it. But the aspect to me that really brings that flavor to it is our hero, Black Panther, who is also the king of Wakanda, which is an African country that decided to hide itself because it was so advanced that it did not want to influence the rest of the world. But as the leader of Wakanda, he realizes that a terrible wrong has been done. And while he has great strength, that awareness of or self-doubt, doubt that he's doing the right thing or has been doing the right thing all along, is what weakens him and causes him to be dethroned. And that's a bit of a spoiler, but hopefully not too much. So I would definitely say that aspect is certainly an aspect of spirituality in film. And as I've said you'll see that in all the superhero films, but this is the first one that has ever been nominated for a Best Picture award in the Academy Awards. Roma is also something else. It's spiritual in a different way. It's about the connections between the people, and it's about feeling a sense of family. But really, what really makes it a spiritual event is simply the visuals. Alphonse Cuarón, the director, Alfonso Cuarón, is the director, and he's known for something, a technique in film, in which there's a sense of realism, while also a sense of something more. So in situations that would normally seem mundane, there's a sense of magic about them, magical realism, if you will. So I would say those are the two that you can look for that have been nominated for directing and Best Picture. And the other one is nominated for Best Original Screenplay. It's a film by Paul Schrader called First Reformed. I believe you can find it on Amazon. I think it's available there. And it's a rather harrowing tale. And there are those people who feel like spiritual films are always feel-good films. And I'm not one of those. I don't believe that. I believe some of the most harrowing experiences people have is when they begin to understand their own spirituality. So this is really a look at a priest, steeped in religious belief and confronting something that makes him reevaluate what his beliefs are, what spirituality is, and his sense of what's right and what's wrong, and his search for redemption. It's a story about a crisis of faith, and it's not for everyone. But I believe that those kinds of stories are also part of what we call or should consider spiritual in films. So those are the things I think to look for. Those are the standouts. There's one other film that's not nominated, but I want to call your attention to it because it talks about the same themes of spirituality or wisdom in films. And it also talks about Groundhog's Day and the star of that movie, which is, of course, Bill Murray. It's actually a documentary about Bill Murray. It's called... oh, wait, where did it go? Sorry. I will get the title for that in just a moment. But it's about Bill Murray's... has a sort of a mysterious quality to him, where he tends to show up in people's lives unannounced and just participate in whatever is going on in their lives. In some situations, he's come to weddings or celebrations, but he's always there at moments when nobody expects him, and he brings a sense of just complete and utter enjoyment in the moment. And this film talks about how